Gotcha, sucker.
Everyone and their grandma knows how to use a race's best units like Grail Knights, Minotaurs, or Chosen. But what are the hidden gem units most players are sleeping on? The ones that can really outperform expectations and change the way you build and use armies. Here is my list of 4 of the most underrated units in Warhammer 3. Number 1. What would most players say is the Empire's greatest weakness? After all, they have access to excellent artillery, armor-piercing missiles, and many lores of magic. So, what is missing that would complete their tool set? The answer to that, in my opinion, is a strong frontline unit capable of defending your damage-dealing units. What may surprise a lot of players then, is that one of the earliest units available to the Empire can be turned into their best defensive unit even into the late game. Spearmen with shields. Available at a tier 2 barracks, this unit will become your go-to frontline. Despite having similar stats to halberdiers, they will prove more effective over the length of a campaign due to their lower cost, bronze shields, and the fact that they don't require a blacksmith to recruit. Talking of their battlefield capabilities, shielded spearmen are able to withstand a whole lot of punishment. With a starting melee defense of 42, they will hold up well against most offensive infantry, especially if supported by a warrior priest or a character that has the hold the line ability. Their true power, however, comes from redline skills and state troop technologies. Early in a campaign, they can research a 50% upgrade to their armor, along with a 10% buff to their base melee defense. Redline skills will net you an additional 11 melee defense, along with 5 more leadership that bolsters their staying power. Altogether, you can push their armor up to 45 and melee defense up to 67 at max experience. Number 2, the Sisters of Slaughter. At first glance, they may seem like a piss-poor unit with only 5 armor, but they're actually one of the best melee infantry in the game, especially when it comes to holding the line. A tier 3 unit that starts with a massive defense of 58, Sisters of Slaughter have one of the top 3 defensive stats of any unit in the game. On top of that, they have a 20% resistance to physical attacks and bronze shields to reduce their weakness to missiles. These speedy gladiators are no slouch on offense either, starting with 40 melee attack, which is further augmented by the Trail of Blades ability, and a weapon strength of 42. They also benefit from poison attacks that will weaken any unit they engage with. They are able to consistently beat Black Orcs 1v1, and even give the strongest defensive infantry like Ironbreakers a run for their money. When comparing them to the Blackguard of Naggarond, they outperform that unit despite the huge gap in armor between the two units. All of this before any buffs from redline combat skills, unit ranks, or technologies. Once you begin to stack those on top, however, they rise to ridiculous levels of awesomeness. The combined redline buffs, along with max rank experience, will see their melee attack go up to 51 and a massive 71 melee defense. Additionally, their physical resistance can go up another 10% to a sweet total of 30%. Technologies will net them a 5% ward save, plus 5 leadership, plus 5 melee attack, along with 5 more weapon strength. Their best buff, however, comes from a Name of Power dilemma, which gives them an additional 10% ward save and a big upkeep reduction. Sisters of Slaughter also become near immortal when played as Harganeth, led by Crone Hellebron. Her unique campaign mechanic, Death Knight, will add perfect vigor, an additional 20% physical resistance that brings it up to 50%, and 10 more leadership faction-wide. Hellebron also has ways to buff them into her unique skill line, giving them a small bonus for infantry and increased melee defense when in her army. Number 3. Warriors of Chaos, Armored Chaos Trolls. Trolls are one of the most overlooked units in Total War Warhammer. Known for their tendency to get shot to death, or rout instantly because of their extremely poor leadership, most players don't even bother recruiting them. But, what if I was to tell you the Warriors of Chaos can turn their trolls into a brick-smashing powerhouse like the Kool-Aid Man? Chaos Trolls are a frequently available warband unit for the Warriors of Chaos in provinces with high undivided corruption. Already possessing regeneration, high armor-piercing values, and causing fear, Chaos Trolls can decimate most enemy units. However, their extremely shaky leadership will often cause them to break after taking small amounts of damage. Throwing some infantry in front of them will help soak up some of that damage directed at them, but won't help against mass range fire. So without constant supervision, they usually break several times during battle. Armored Trolls, on the other hand, are significantly less troublesome. They are stronger, will fight longer, and survive much better against dangerous enemies without support. Available once they reach rank 3, this warband upgrade is perhaps the best early game power spike the Warriors of Chaos can achieve. especially since it does not require any research beforehand. After being upgraded, a unit of Chaos Trolls will see their starting armor go up from 40 to a whopping 110, almost 200%. This massive jump in armor significantly reduces the amount of damage they take, creating a wide buffer between them and the aforementioned leadership penalties caused by damage that trolls inevitably accumulate. Unfortunately, the initial redline buffs available to you don't do much to help with trolls' weaknesses, so you can consider bypassing them entirely. Another sad truth is that trolls only have one technology in all of the Warriors of Chaos technology tree. But the redeeming factor is that it's actually pretty good. The Giant Manacles technology sees them gain a 25% resistance to missiles and a 15% increase to their weapon strength. The missile resistance in particular will give them a strong tool against their biggest threat, focused missile fire. Leveling up their combat experience is the best way to increase their leadership, as it starts at a measly low of 45. Side note, leadership banners can be a quick fix if your trolls are breaking before you can level them up. The one skill that is worth investing in for an army lord leading a high amount of trolls is the rank 7 buff at the end of the red line skill tree. It actually does quite a lot for them, giving them plus 8 leadership, a 5% ward save, and increased melee attack, so it's worth taking even if it's just to bump their leadership to the max of 63. While they will never replace your late game heavy infantry like Chosen, armored Chaos Trolls will still be useful in any Warriors of Chaos army if you give them the amount of love they deserve. Tomb Kings have access to one of the longest range artillery in the game, the Casket of Souls. These units don't suck by any means, but I'm here to convince you there's a unit worth recruiting instead of them. The Screaming Skull Catapult. Like many of the other units on this list, the Screaming Skull Catapult is one of the hidden gem units in Warhammer. To be honest, I didn't use them for a long time, and for one reason in particular. They sit at the top of the chariot recruitment building. While the Tomb Kings are renowned for their chariots, I was never really impressed by them. So instead of wasting money on their recruitment building, I always used my minor settlement slots to get more Tomb Guarded constructs. But when I finally gave the Screaming Skull Catapults a shot, man, I was surprised. They're great. Totally worth spending some money to recruit even if you don't want any of the chariots from that building tree. Plus, because Screaming Skull Catapults are recruited from a Tier 3 building, it means you can get great artillery from a minor settlement building and not waste a slot in your province capital. When compared side by side in battle to the Casket of Souls, the catapults will do almost equal damage to heavy infantry, even routing some before the Casket of Souls, despite a range disadvantage of 60 and the homing missiles of the Casket of Souls. All artillery causes a leadership drop on hit, but Screaming Skull Catapults inflict an extra -8 leadership penalty, making them excellent at routing their preferred target, mid to low leadership infantry. Their missiles also do magic damage, making them particularly useful against units that have physical resistance, like the multitude of demons introduced in Warhammer 3. So, despite not having as much missile strength as other similar artillery, they more than make up for it with a large splash area, great ammunition modifiers, and a respectable range of 380. As a side note, even though both their lore and in-game descriptions say they should cause fire damage, their ammunition isn't flammable, so hopefully that's something Creative Assembly will address in the future. As far as the campaign side of things, the redline buffs are mostly relegated to more ammunition missile damage. Focusing on the most relevant battle buffs, in campaign you can get their damage up by 30% along with a decent increase to the reload time reduction, both of which will see even more buffs from experience ranks. So, not anything too exciting, but enough to make them good into the late game. Overall, Screaming Skull Catapults can be valuable throughout an entire campaign, especially since their direct competitor, the Casket of Souls, are only recruitable through an expensive rite with a long cooldown. If you liked this video, go ahead and check out some of my videos like my suggestions for early game Chaos Dwarf technologies. With that said, I'm Warhammer, and I'll see you guys in the future.